Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of pruning. So I decided I was going to do a part 2 of pruning 1 because I realized I had another note on pruning that I did not add to the original. So I'm back for that part. So the Lord gave me this revelation, and it was so interesting and revelatory to me that I desired to share it with you. This stems from something that the Lord showed me some time back, and He brought my attention back to it. When I tell you, and it may seem like I'm being hard on you guys about you need to choose the right relationship because it's important, because I did a video when this ministry first started talking about the importance of the most important decision you will ever make in your life is who you're going to be in partnership with, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that is important. And just as I've said in the previous video, that there are important aspects and elements that you really do have to pay attention to, because the fact of the matter that if we are intelligent, grown folks, I'm talking about grown folks. I'm almost 40 years old, ain't got time for it. Okay? Grown folks are mature enough that they're not out here, okay, seeking out relationships just for convenience. But the world is hard, but this is this, but this is this, but this. I'm gonna need y'all. Let me get on my soapbox for a minute. I'm gonna need y'all. Some of y'all been through multiple relationships. Some of y'all had experiences. To me, I would think if you've been through multiple relationships, you've seen patterns. And through the seeing of these patterns, you come to certain realizations, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. You see, I've studied psychology in college, one of my favorite classes when I was in college. Some of that stuff stuck with me. I have a memory like an elephant. So when it comes down to it, you have to come to that realization that yes, on one hand, you needed to check you out and figure out what your problem was. And yes, on the other side, they needed to check themselves out. Okay? But we're going to get into that in a minute as to why you keep making the same mistakes, okay? We're gonna get in that in a minute. But I'm here for some adult folks. The reason that y'all needed to prune like you did is because this is when the adults come to the realization that when things are brought to your attention about relationships, past relationships, what you were supposed to do is put it on the altar. Because the one person, what I say in my previous word, God's going to deal with who first? You. He's going to deal with you. The pruning process is about dealing with those things that were the residue of what? You. Who? You. The beliefs of who? You. And I'm going to make this even more in depth. You got to deal with those things. Because God gave me revelation. I was watching a video. I guess I will bring this in here. I was watching a video on YouTube and I was listening to an entrepreneur. Some of y'all talk about the reason that you wanted to be on or wanted what you wanted in the comments was you wanted your finances to come into right alignment. Okay. In this interview this person was in, this woman came to realization of what her calling was. Okay? And she started to express about the things that started to happen to her when she came to the realization of what her calling was. And it stuck out to me that she pointed out she was in relationship with a person at the point in time in which she came to the recognition of what her calling was. Let me put up a caveat right here. If you're in wrong relationship with the wrong person, I don't care if you're married to them or not, if you're out of alignment with this individual, number one, God's going to tell you. If you don't choose to listen to God, God will allow for the environment of that relationship to tell you. But see, this woman, before I get back to her, I'm going to say this. I've seen 5 to 6 different relationships of actual social media influencers, to be honest with you, literally fall apart. Why? Not because of the fact that they were super influential or their influence and their relationship couldn't handle it. The influencers whose relationships fell apart, I came to the realization, the first young woman, her relationship fell apart because she was dumbing herself down for her marriage. A lot of women dumb themselves down for relationship because they rather stay in relationship. I'm married, I have kids, I can't. And then they end up wasting the majority of their life in a relationship, end up lost if the children grow up and they have no other reason to stay in relationship with that man. The man's going to leave. The man might have stayed. Some men will stay for the kids, but then there's some. They'll keep up the charade until their kids are grown and say, I'm leaving now. How many of y'all seen those relationships? Raise hands. Some men are just super loyal and they'll stay. They end up miserable. They end up with issues. And what ends up happening? Some of them end up dead early. Oh, why did he die? It wasn't actually the thing that they died from. You know the scripture in the word that talks about a man's heart will fail him? Because he was where he was not supposed to be and trying to force himself to stay there. It was something way deeper, spiritually. I'm getting to that too. Some of you, the other relationships I recognize as these individuals started to come into recognition of what God was pulling them into. God will start to pull on you. And you know when God's pulling on you, because everything around you will start to feel like it don't belong. You can't stay in it. You're uncomfortable. And some of y'all gonna sit up there and try to cause it to stay because y'all sat up there and picked people yourselves. But I wanted this. I wanted him. Every influencer, when the person came to the epiphany of who they were, what they wanted, and stopped dumbing themselves down to fit the marriage that they felt like they had to stay into, they came to realization the partner they were standing next to was either too weak for them and would not be able to sustain walking with them and ended up having to get divorced, or something happened. Let's get back to the interview I was talking about. The woman was in a relationship. She wasn't married to the man, thank God. But as soon as she figured out This is my calling. And she verbalized it, made it known spiritually. You know, the man that she was sitting next to in her home started to sabotage every damn thing that he could to keep her. And she knew it. Every time she wanted to work on something that had to do with what she was called to do, this man would do something. I've seen it happen over and over again. I had people in my life previously explain these things. Why? Because they weren't called to walk with him. She talked about how somebody had, the person that she was with messed up the house, literally turned on the faucets and caused the house to flood. So that they would have to deal with the bill because she knew she was separating from him. So all these things to cause them to have to spend extra money to keep the house in order, to keep her from being able to use her finances either to put into her brand or her business, because these little things kept coming up. Why? I'm going to get into that in a minute. Satan don't want to see you reach your goal. Some of y'all so busy trying to chase these men that may not even be the one that you're supposed to be with. And in all actuality, they're siphoning from you. They're siphoning your energy. They're siphoning your time because they're counterfeit. And God's trying to get you back in order. Boo. That's not the one. And some of y'all know that he done told you that wasn't the one. Because guess what? I was listening to a minister say this the other day, and I'm going to add this in here. That once you come to a point of perceiving what it is that God has called you to walk into, and you make up your mind to persist after what God's called you to walk into, everything around you is going to resist it. And if that person that's standing next to you is not walking with God, they're going to resist it too. They are going to refuse to walk with you. And even if they verbally out their mouth say they will, everything about their actions are going to do the exact opposite, because the enemy knows he's got a foothold in that individual. And they're going to manipulate scenarios to keep you outside of your blessing. So you're going to be pulling towards your blessing, or shall I say pushing towards your blessing, and they're going to be pulling you backwards. Because they're not who's supposed to walk with you. So their operation is to pull you backwards. All right? If these individuals are wrong for you. Now, here's the catch-22. I'm going to explain this from a different perspective. Because, see, they will end up being the thing that will delay and prevent you from getting to the route necessary for you to get assistance. Okay? Don't get mad at them. Don't personalize it because you think it's the actual individual. No, that is a demonic principality that is using them as a vessel because they are being used as a pawn, just like a pawn on a chessboard. Okay? They got open doors and open windows. As long as you are choosing to walk with God and they aren't, this is why you have to go through the courts of heaven to do courtship. Because God's got to choose, because that person has to be chosen by God, because that person will what? Walk in route with God's will for your life. Okay. Otherwise, they're going to contend against it, whether they verbally say it or not, because they got open doors. And the more you realize your calling, your walk, and your belief system, the more they're going to be revealed as walking in the opposite direction. Push, pull, push, pull. This is why you can't be in a wrong relationship. right? So, with that being said, you have to make a decision. All right? Most people choose out of convenience and false evidence appearing real to stay in a relationship. I stayed in that past relationship I was in for over 7 years. Why? It was convenient and it solved an issue that I had at the time. It gave me space to not think about what my true problems were. It gave me a distraction from what I needed to be focusing on. It gave me a secondary place to go when I had nowhere else to go. I guarantee you, had I had a secure dwelling place and was in that relationship, I'd have got rid of it in 5 seconds because I would have never allowed it to manipulate my situations because I was just trying to survive. But if I had any level of stability, that relationship would have ended quickly. A lot of people hold on to relationships because it's something within it that's convenient to them. Not the other person, to them. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to go back to the reflection. A counterfeit is a reflection of every part of your bloodline curse that you choose not to take responsibility for. Huh? Uh-huh. That's exactly what a counterfeit is. Go back and look at every counterfeit relationship you've ever been in and look at your bloodline curse record. Look at the things that you recognize in your bloodline about bloodline curses and tell me that you don't see every single one of them in those relationships. You might see one may be more prevalent in one relationship, another one may have been less prevalent in another relationship, but they were always there. When you started walking with God, you started to separate yourself from those things. So in turn, you got to separate from people that are associated with those very same bloodline curses. And people that are continuing to operate in those rebellious curses, you must separate from as well. Write them down. Understand the list. What are the things that were operating in ungodly sin that those relationships had in them that you continue to go back to? And if you're honest, for those of you that like to sit up there and point and pick men for yourself, the only reason you picked them was because they were in alignment with your rebellion. You were attracted to them because of what? Attraction. Attraction is related to what? Raise your hand. Lust. Perversion. The desire for fornication. All things that you shouldn't be doing when you are walking with God anyway. Those are rebellious behaviors. How did Delilah get Samson? Huh? Oh, okay. I was just checking. For those of y'all that sit up there talking about, oh, I'm going to wait for my kingdom spouse, but I'm going to go and slide up in this other person's DMs because they're here and the man's not here. Why do you think you did that? Oh, you wanted them in that position because it was convenient to you? Because you didn't want to address the fact that you were dealing with something within yourself. Okay. Stop. I'm going to need you to press stop. I remember I had a dream during my time away. And I wanted to come back to you guys. And God kept saying, Stop. Because he wanted me to sit down and deal with the thing that I was resisting because I wanted to come back to you guys. And I was like, when I tell you he made me dream of the word stop written in big bold letters across the front of a building stacked up on top of each other, I was like, well, why did I say that? Only to look it up and understand that I was resisting something that God wanted to take away from me. That I wasn't recognizing in my time while I was gone. Oh. Did you not notice the words changed a little bit when I came back? Yeah, that's why. So the counterfeit, coming back to the fact that they are a representation. So God needs to strip them from you because they operate in those rebellions. There's still signs of residue. Even when y'all want to sit up there and hang out with me, I'm going to just hang out with this dude. They represent the residue. And eventually, even if they don't start off, you're like, I'm just going to hang out with him. This is my guy friend. Are you supposed to have male friends? I didn't know that God said that there was somewhere in the Bible that we could have male friends. Or is it just because you won't be convenient? Ew. And God's not going to allow your God-ordained spouse to come near you until you deal with that part of your heart that keeps trying to slip into somebody else's DMs. And you still sitting up there begging, where my husband at? Where my husband at? He's going to deal with that part of you that doesn't like long suffering. Because every time he tries to put you through long suffering, you go and try to find somebody's body to sit in that position. Oh. I was pruning you for a reason. I was dealing with you for a reason. Does it hurt yet? That's right, you didn't want to deal with the hurt, so you'll try to slip somebody up in that spot. Oh, God said I could. And you know daggone well God didn't say you could choose somebody else. Stop believing the lie people done sat up there and sold you. Oh, God gave me a replacement. I get to replace him. Go right out there and get another counterfeit, okay? Go ahead. Go ahead. Let us start beating you down. Because they're going to start whooping that behind with them bloodline curses. And you're going to be wondering, why is this person acting like this? Because they're dealing with the 7 friends. They got all the spirits of the 7 friends. When the enemy realizes that the house is swept clean, he gonna bring that person that looks so smooth and is so nice and is so beautiful, and you can't wait, and you feel like, I got to be up under this individual. They feeding all of the spirits because you're dealing with this and you dealing with that, and you coming into agreement with ungodly behaviors, lust of the eyes. They got all of the gorgeousness, and they got the 7 friends just waiting, rubbing their hands together, talking about, when she get over here? And then you wonder why you end up backslid away from your blessing, have to go through all of this, then got a big guy to get out the relationship, deal with the emotional healing on all of the tomfoolery. Because y'all still had residue, and y'all was sitting up there talking about, I'm going to just slip over here right quick. Let me tell you something. God gave me a dream. I saw a particular individual in this dream. And this particular individual was watching at a distance. This is what your enemy does. Your enemy, which is not actually the person, it's the spirit behind your enemy. It's the strong man. It observes you, and then it tries to slip in right quick. And then it uses a request to tempt you. Come on. because that residue is going to open a door to a situation which literally allots for you that you're still attached to those desires, cravings of those things from your past season. And you haven't dealt with yourself yet. And you subconsciously are either thinking that you're unworthy of the promise and end up in unforgiveness of self from your past mistakes and end up resenting yourself or resenting that you can't go out there and do what everybody else is doing. So what ends up happening is you have a taste for what you perceive, and the enemy attempts to come in to bring in a reinforcement of the ungodly mixture, because this is the way the enemy does. He doesn't just straightforwardly say that I'm evil. He comes in and slyly steps in and looks like the package in order to mix in something to get you out of alignment. That's what the 7 friends are. And they're worse than the previous season. Why? Because they're that much more cunning, that much more low-key, that much more. Because the enemy will attempt to create a legal door that is a legal right, because he's trying to check off the boxes. Can I get him in rebellion? Can I get him in lust? Can I get him in perversion? Can I get him in pride? Can I get him in this? Can I get him in that? Can I get him in that? Manipulating you to come into these directions. Trying to spin you around. And then trying to, when all of that stuff doesn't work. This is why when you're in a counterfeit, you don't want the counterfeit, because the counterfeit is going to operate in a level of attempting to intimidate you into staying through spiritual extortion, physical extortion, so on and so forth. And I'm not talking about money. I'm literally talking about atmospherically. Think about what an abuser does. They mentally, emotionally, spiritually abuse you, sometimes technically abuse you, sometimes physically abuse you to keep you in place. Why would you want that? Oh, because these people are run by a different spirit. But the reason that they had access to you is because why? You had an open door that kept the cycle going, because you kept getting lured away. Because in the dream that I had of myself, I was walking with an individual that I never would have walked with in real life. And I watched them draw me in a completely opposite direction, calling themselves taking me to a place that I would have received nourishment. But in all actuality, it was a disguise. How many of y'all? And God was trying to test that door to see if you would open it. He needed you to make the decision to recognize it. That's why when these counterfeits come in, you're supposed to recognize them. At this point, come on now. To understand that residue that is still within you, so you don't take that in your next season. If you can still keep falling and slipping into that, you still giving the enemy, the accuser of the brethren, rights. So you're going to keep getting stuck. You keep doing that. So with that being said, the other reason that, just as I talk about your spouse, if your spouse came to you while you were in this season, this is why your spouse can actually be a counterfeit in the season that he's in if he's not where God needs for him to be, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. He can be a counterfeit of the version of himself, just like you can be a counterfeit of the version of yourself, because y'all still got residue that y'all haven't dealt with to the point and degree God needs it dealt with. Because if he's still dealing with some of these issues and you still got tastes and desires for certain things, you're going to be looking at that man. How many people have sat up there and slipped up? Got in relationship with the right man, wrong season, and turned around and slipped up because, ooh, he's so fine. You allowed your perverse thoughts, desires, and all that man had to do was use his very own continual previous activity, because remember, he's still struggling too, because he's trying to get used to the godly walk too. Had he not dealt with those things, I need you to take a moment and think about this. It's the moment in the movie, what you call it, Princess and the Frog. The moment when the frog comes to Tiana thinking she's a princess, he came to her with the wanting desire of, you can help me. But he had his own underlying desire that wasn't attached to the right motive. Your spouse would come to you still with the wrong eyesight of you and not the right motive. So then, therefore, even he would be a counterfeit of the version of himself. So when he came into contact with you, if you were still dealing with your lust, perverse desires, then guess what? When he kissed her, what happened? She turned into a frog too. Y'all ain't ready for that review. So the removal. Now I'm going to talk about the female counterfeit right now, if I haven't got on y'all enough already. Okay? The female counterfeit, which would have been his counterfeit, okay? Removing of that counterfeit. Counterfeits that we hold on to, but for only as long as we hold on to them, it's an attempt that counterfeit, coming back to Delilah, to kill the right alignment. In the scripture in Numbers 22 through 24, Balaam and Balak could not get that man out of alignment with his righteous ways. So what did he do? They sent him a woman. The destructive woman's whole purpose for coming is to do what? To destroy. She is a counterfeit on a mission to destroy. Delilah was sent to do what? Destroy. Okay? They're supposed to represent that physical manifestation in that man's life. This is why he's attracted to her, because she draws in his lusts. She moves in the direction of the things that he should not have been doing. Even if you go and you look at the movie, I Think I Love My Wife, the character Nikki was literally a reference to this man's desires outside of marriage. The things that he felt he was not getting with his wife. There are physical manifestations of that. Coming back to the representation of the bloodline curses. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. So they move towards those things. And it opens up a spiritual door in order to destroy, forestall, because it's a legal right that the enemy has to continue to keep the door open to siphon, forestall, or prevent your spouse from being able to walk towards you. And it slows you down. It slowed them down. Y'all sitting up there, why do I keep seeing the word delay? Why do I keep seeing the word delay? So with that being said, takes you out of right alignment, which gives legal right for every attack that you be seeing. Not to mention the counterfeits when the men are going in the right direction and healing and doing the work of coming out of agreement with themselves where they have operated as the counterfeit of the version of the man that God said that you were supposed to marry. The counterfeit will turn around and start doing witchcraft, spells, separation spells, breaking spells, trying to get you into apathy so they can open up a spiritual door to try to force you to come into alignment with that other counterfeit I just finished talking about. Oh yeah, using the moon, the sun, the moon phases, all of that bull. These types of things to get them to come into alignment with these ungodly behaviors, and God can't get into that. He's not going to. He'll stop it if the men ask for him to stop it, but they got to surrender those things over. But see, that counterfeit is always going to be in enmity to pull them what? Away from the manifestation of God, and attempting through their deceptive behavior as a deceitful woman to what? Dismantle the mantle of whatever it is that God is trying to bring them into alignment with. Oh, really? Why? Because the enemy sends a person to destroy what God is trying to do. Coming back to, and I'm going to leave you with this, what I was listening to Pastor say the other night, that these individuals operating under a resistance, because they're resisting you being able to step into the heavenly assistance of your God-ordained relationship. You completing the heart work, because they're what? The distraction. Whether you got a male distraction or Satan does set a female distraction of them. Why? To dismantle the what? Position in which God's trying to get you into by getting you elevated to your actual calling. Oh. So you have to go look up the scripture about God dismantling the strong enemies. That have attempted to what? Overpower you. God will overpower those that hate you. But you got to become wise and open your eyes to the fact that that's even happening. And then surrender it to the altar of God and have the angels of what? Psalms 35 to go forth and dismantle that. Separate that. Coming back to the word that I spoke the other day, talking about what? He will send in and destroy. He'll have the angels come in. And the angels will what? Go from the north, south, east, and the west. You have to keep the door shut from this counterfeit. You have to what? Recognize that. God will keep that door shut. But also recognize that these are the little foxes that the enemy is attempting by trying to lure you into past desires melancholy, apathy, to open spiritual doors that once you step into the blessing, to sabotage you once you're in it. And God has to bring forth the heavenly assistance so that you can step into it. And all of these things were sent what? To contend against the blessing, to contend against the manifestation. So why are you going to sit up there and come to agreement with a counterfeit? Okay? Did I make it make sense to you? I hope so. So until next time, bye-bye.